Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now.
Okay.
Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Good day to you. How you doing? We're going back to the land down under. We're going to Perth, Australia today. We're going to visit with Julie Wyatt. She is a real estate investor. What she focuses on is really kind of helping people reinvent themselves. Women that are victims of domestic violence, how to get a leg up, to get a hand up, not a handout, but a hand to extend, to grow themselves, to reinvent their lives, to have a piece of property, to start their lives all over again. Sometimes there's a lot of women that are out there that are stuck, that feel that there's no hope. And Julie is making it her life's mission to say that's not the truth. And you know what? I'm going to show you how to do it with no money down. I want to hear a little bit about that and tell her what my experience with that no money down is over here in the U.S. So let's welcome her to the show. How are you, Julie?
I'm awesome. Thanks, April. Thank you for having me. And what an awesome introduction, got to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to have you here. You are a powerhouse. You're a former nurse. I want to give you your flowers right now because nurses and teachers are my favorite people on the planet. I'll tell anybody that in a heartbeat. Those are jobs that do not get the acknowledgement and the credit that you deserve. Taking care of somebody when they're sick, girl, is not easy because folks can be ugly. My friend's in the hospital right now. Yeah, my friend is in the hospital right now and wanted me to send him some cookies and stuff. But the way that I heard him talking to the nurse in the background, I told him not only am I not sending you no cookies, I wouldn't be surprised if she walked out and didn't help you. How in the world did you go from nursing now to nursing hearts and souls and helping people recover and start their lives over again with real estate?
That's a good question. I think it's because it's my personal experience that nursing has been fantastic to me, and I'm very, very grateful to all the experiences I had. It's been 40 years as a nurse and a remote area nurse at that, so lots of experience. But I think you get to the stage where you get tired. You get tired of doing all that stuff, and I figured that I had always renovated houses. So for the last 20 years, I've been like a serial renovator and made some money on the side, just did it as a hobby. And then I started becoming more serious about it. And lots of people started saying, can you teach me how to do that stuff? And it kind of just organically grew from there. So around 4 years ago, I stepped away from nursing full-time and full-time into property. And it was something I've been toying with for a long time, and I'd go put the toe in and then go, I'm scared. And it took me a while to do it, but when you actually back yourself and go like full on into it, I just made it work. I've never gone back. I had to make a decision probably a year and a half ago now for my registration. So we have a central registration body, and you have to have continuing education to be able to be registered in Australia. So I couldn't say that I was recent in my practice. So I'm a non-practicing registered nurse now. So I keep my qualification, but I just don't practice, which is kind of
nurse, always a nurse. We were
absolutely. It's like riding a bike.
Right? Holiday on vacation in Thailand. My husband had heat exhaustion and just almost fell out. I tell you, the nurses were traveling in packs. He had two on each hand. He had one at his temple, one at his feet. I was like, he had his own little harem there. I say, take good care of him. But they will always ask, is there a nurse? And there's always a nurse or someone with nursing experience. So again, I thank you so much because it's a lot. Now, renovating homes. You know, we used to have this thing, and I call it 1-800 ballroom. In the middle of the night, you'd be watching the television, and you'd have this person come out and want everyone to sign up for these amazing classes on how to flip homes, how to purchase a piece of property and flip it and make a gazillion dollars. Well, I said, let me do a little deep dive. I was thinking about it, but I said, let me do my homework. I went
Mm.
down to the courthouse and I got the list of properties and I was going to go to the auction and this and that. And someone gave me a phone call and said, April, you might want to look at this a little closer before you get involved. Well, they got into it. They didn't really realize the tax liability. They had gotten a piece of property. They didn't know what the property was really looked like, sight unseen. Then when they got the property, yeah, because they thought they were getting this incredible deal and they just knew they could flip it. Then when they got into the property, they didn't have the money to really put into it to make it marketable to sell it for a profit. So let's dial back a little bit. Number one, how did you get involved in doing it? Then number two, what are some of the things that people need to know before they think that they can become this next great real estate entrepreneur?
Yeah, great questions, April. And I have heard similar stories here where people get promised they're going to make a gazillion dollars on they're going to make $1 million a year on their first deal. It's just rubbish, 100% rubbish. So it's really interesting. So some of the strategies that I use here actually came from the US. So it's been commonplace in the US for many years, and it's relatively new in Australia. Relatively new, I say, over probably the five or 10 years now. And I think, like any real estate strategy, you need to understand what you're doing. So just diving in and hoping for the best. And I think it's interesting you mentioned a television program about renovating or rehabbing or flipping. There's many of those programs. There's a program here called The Block, and people get right sucked in because they see, this magic amount of money that people make at the end of it, but they don't see all the work that goes into it and all the strategy behind it. So super interesting. I would urge people, if they're going to look at a strategy like this, you need to educate yourself. That is simple as it is. So that's what I did. I did probably employ a couple of mentors to teach me the ins and outs of how to do this effectively and ethically, because that's also a thing that's close to my heart, is making sure that if you're doing a deal, it's a win-win. Okay, so yes, we do deals with no money down, but there's a whole strategy behind it. Your first deal is not going to make you $1 million. There's no way. You could make really good chunks of money, but you have to understand what you're doing. And rocking up onto the steps of the courthouse, exactly what you were talking about, and hoping for the best, that would be diabolical. It's very different in Australia. They don't have the tax liens and auctions that they do over there. However, what we essentially do, it's just a very simple explanation, is we will work with homeowners to actually joint venture or elevate the value of their property. So you're not actually taking ownership of the property. And there's a couple of things. So joint ventures with sellers and option contracts where you control the property, you don't own it. And that's the power here, because if you can control a property, you don't have all the holding costs and all of the costs to actually purchase. That allows you to do multiple deals. And I say no money down because that is actually a strategy we use all the time now. So the last 4 years, we've been doing this in Perth, which has been an interesting learning curve because it's considered way behind the rest of Australia in this regard. So,
Well, the
yeah,
Perth is some prime real estate. Okay,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
that's beach property.
correct.
It's not cheap. It's not living in a barrio. I'm sorry, the barrio or the lower the ghettos or anything like that. So
No.
again, you've got to have a strategy.
Yeah, and it doesn't work for every property. That's the other thing to understand, is that there's a group of homeowners that will never sell their house for a profit because it looks terrible. It's in poor repair, it's outdated, it looks dreadful. Often they're put in a position where they need the money and they haven't got anything themselves to actually improve the presentation of the house. So we've worked with a lot of people over the years where we've actually helped them achieve a better profit, and our business has made money as well. So When we first started, we had to use joint venture partners to fund the renovations as well. So that it is truly a no money down strategy. And
Okay,
I think,
let me slow down just a little bit because I want to see if we can again apply this wherever we are in the world. But
correct, yeah.
when you say joint venture, what do you mean? Break that down.
Means, yeah, so joint venture or JV, we call it a JV, is joining forces with another party. So, for example, if you had a homeowner that owned their house free and clear, so no mortgage on it, which is a lot of people, right? They own their property, they want to sell it, say to move into a nursing home or something a bit smaller that they can manage, right? This is a really common scenario in our area. So I bring the expertise, the knowledge, the money, and I join up with a homeowner who is happy that I take all of that stuff off their plate and we work together. So the homeowner must move out of the house and we go in and renovate it at our cost. So we bring it up to marketable condition, and it's usually a cosmetic renovation that's required. And then we split the profit when the house sells. So we take care of everything. And that suits a lot of elderly people who just don't know what to do. They have no clue where to start. They don't have the money. They don't have the knowledge. And like when you've been working with renovation as long as I have, I know what it takes to bring the house up so that when it comes onto the market, it sells in a week, you know? So we generate a lot more profit for the joint venture between the owner and us. We both walk away doing very well out of it. So it's a great strategy.
That
A
is a
really,
great strategy. We
it's
have
very,
things here called reverse mortgages, which is different. But
yeah,
what the owner does is the owner will own the property free and clear, or maybe not free and clear, but sometimes a very, very low uh, balance on their mortgage. And they will essentially get a reverse mortgage where the mortgage company will start paying them a certain amount every month. What people, and family members don't understand. Oh, when my parents die, we've got the house is paid for. They don't know that their mother or father has been living off of that money, paying for their medical benefits, paying for housekeepers, paying for the gardener, paying for groceries, even because they're getting that. And then when their parents die, they say, well, where's this mortgage coming from? You have an option at that point to pay that mortgage off, refinance, or what have you, to take the property back over. Do they do things like that in Australia?
yeah. Yeah, reverse mortgages are common here. They are diabolical for that reason. A lot of people don't understand what they're getting themselves into, and they're often older people. And generally, it results in the bank taking the house back because no one can pay the outstanding interest. That's the horrendous interest rate as well. It's actually been something that has been really tightly regulated by the Banking Royal Commission in Australia because there was a lot of like rampant reverse mortgages going on where they were never ever going to be able to repay the amount. So I would never recommend anyone took them. They leave an absolute nightmare for the family left behind, and generally no one can afford the interest rate, and the bank just takes the house. So it's not unless you understand the product, it's not a great option. So yeah,
Interest rates. I was talking to another realtor there in Australia. They say that you don't necessarily have a fixed interest rate. Your rates can fluctuate.
yep, correct. Yep.
Really? Oh, so we have
Yeah.
like a 15-year fix or a 30-year fix
Oh,
mortgage.
wow.
We don't have the fluctuation.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's
I take that back. We do have the fluctuation, but we had a large problem here in the US where they had predatory lenders, where they
yeah,
would give you this loan and you were paying interest only. You were never touching any of the principal.
yeah,
And then you would have this big balloon payment. You'd end up losing the property.
yep.
People didn't
It
know about
happens
that
here.
either. You have to
Yeah,
educate yourself,
yeah,
Grace, and you have to slow down.
yeah.
Everyone's so excited. Oh, I want to get this piece of property. I want to do this. You have to know what you're doing and consult two or three people. Great people like Julie, even if she's uh in Australia, she can still consult with you and give you some tips and say, hey, you might want to ask these questions because information is power. You said there was
Absolutely.
another option. You said joint ventures, and what was the other one?
Something called options contracts. So you actually, when you talk to a homeowner, if they're not in a real hurry to sell their house, I just say to them, would you be able to give me an extended settlement so that I can come in and make cosmetic improvements to your house? And then when we sell it, we'll pay you the amount we agree on up front. And it just allows you to control the house. It's a
Let me
great
let me let
strategy
me
as well.
ask. I'm sorry, because I want to catch it right where it is. When you have that option, are you putting like a lien? Are you on the deed? How does that work? How does that work? How does that work
It's
for you?
Yeah, so it's basically you have the power to control the house. So you have an option contract over the house. The homeowner still owns it, but you control it. So you have an agreement with the homeowner essentially. You say if they're wanting to sell the house and they have no money, and again, no money, no time, no knowledge. Again, you're working with them, but you're allowing they're giving you usually around 120 days to get in, renovate it, and on sell it. And again, they're not in the property, they are living elsewhere. And again, you give them a price that they would never get in the market if they tried to sell it in a traditional way. So again, it's kind of like a joint venture, but different, just a different contract. And with any of these agreements, it's a legal agreement. You have to sign, a lawyer has to write them up, or a solicitor, or whatever you call them there. And the person who owns the home must understand what's happening, because it's important. Like, you need to have that shared knowledge so that they understand the process as well. And it works brilliantly, because again, they're going to get a chunk of money that they would never normally get. I give them higher than what the market would pay, so that it's a win-win. And then, like, we have the process now, we get in, get out, we can do multiple projects, and these people, there's always a problem with the house. It's either been trashed by tenants, or it's been a drug house, or it's been a deceased estate and it's overgrown and it looks dreadful. Or there's a multitude of reasons why people fall into this, into this place. So that's what I'm saying. It's not every house, but if you've got a problem house and you go in there and you're like, this house actually has really good bones and it will come up beautifully with a cosmetic cleanup. Sometimes it's just a clean and a paint. That's all it needs. But it just really, really depends. So, they're the two strategies that we use, but it's very effective. And as long as people understand the process and you work with them, I think, going back to what you were saying about being a nurse, I think nurses are exceptionally good at listening to people tell me what is the problem, why they're in this situation, and you come up with a solution to the problem. And then once they meet you and understand that you're an ethical person, that you are there to care and help, we generally have no issues. Like, people don't question anything. Like, once they sign the agreement, they work with us. And the thing that I love the most is when we finish the house, just before we're about to put it on the market, we bring the owner back, and
Wow.
they haven't seen the house, right? And I've got film of people just crying, like going, "Oh my God, is this my house?" Like, the transformation is amazing. So
Want to stay at that point. They don't want to sell.
No, most people are like, "Oh, I wish I'd known that I could have done this with my house and I would have been happy to stay." But they know that that's not possible. Like, they've signed an agreement. I haven't had anyone do anything bad in that regard. I think that, again, is that open communication. You're just talking with them all the time, letting them know what's going on. So it's
So
a it's a
you
great
are a
strategy.
leader. You're a leader in this industry. I mean, I don't hear a lot of people. You hear real estate agents, mortgage brokers, and that, but you don't really hear about people that do the renovation, give people the option to get the money. Of course, they can't be living in the property. So you're really a trailblazer when it comes to this, huh?
I think so. I don't think there's very many people and I think people, it's the probably the hardest thing for me is I connect with sellers by dropping leaflets into their letterboxes. So that's a great way for me to speak direct to sellers. And a lot of people think it's a scam. They're like, "Oh, this sounds too good to be true." Then they meet me and then they think, "Oh, okay, so this is a real person. They actually have a company. They do good work." And I show them all of like, I can show them the last 20 deals that we've done or whatever, and they can see that there's some social proof. But it's hard because people don't understand there's not just one way to buy and sell a house. There's so many different options out there. And it's just one of those things where I would love to build a community where people think this is a norm. This is how you can do it. If you don't have the money to buy a house in a traditional way, this is one way that you could sell your house and get a better price, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, now
So
you use the terms interchangeably. You said sell and buy. What
Yeah.
about, okay, so you're able to sell the property, it's all fine and dandy, but what about the potential buyer? We're looking at, you know, example, women that are coming from domestic violence. How do
Mhm.
we support them to get a leg up to purchase a home?
That's a great question, and that's where a lot of this stuff is directed. And you really, the reality is going to take more than one deal to do that, right? So what I teach people is how to make chunks of money. Okay, so you can make enough chunks of money so that you can have your deposit ready, and then you can go and purchase a property over a period of time. Or you can negotiate with a house owner, like if you're dealing direct with a seller and there's no real estate agents involved, which is great because sometimes agents don't know everything and they don't know some of these strategies as well. You can negotiate with someone to do like a period of like rent to buy. You could negotiate like anything, everything is negotiable. So this is what I say to people. You just because there's one way of doing something, that's what you've been taught, that's what you've been taught your whole life, that's what the banks want you to think. There's so many ways. You can talk to a seller about vendor financing you into your first deal. There's so many ways you can do this. And I think it's really about interrupting what people's thought patterns are around banks. I have no time for banks. They are diabolical, and I have issues with them all the time because they have to be very rigid in their thinking. When there's 100 other ways you could do things,
Mm.
and essentially, I think the guts of it is really this: so that anything that you can agree on with a seller and that you can negotiate on is doable. And if you have a legal agreement that says that, then that's it. That's all it needs to be. Banks can take a hike, really. That's what
Can
I
we,
think.
can we dial back a little bit, if you don't
Of
mind, and go
course.
a little bit into your own personal story
Mhm.
of being a, victim of domestic violence? In that regard, what was your aha moment? What was your breakthrough, and why are you so focused on that population and supporting that?
That is a really good question, April. Very, very probing. It's
Share as
true.
much or as little as you like. I respect
I
that.
know. Yeah. Well, I think you would appreciate, and probably most people would appreciate, if you've been through a personal situation, of course, it's always going to resonate with you that once you get to the other side of that situation, you never want to see anyone else have to go through that ever again, right? So I've had the joy and delight of not only one, but two narcissistic, one violent and one non-violent, but narcissistic partners. So made some pretty bad choices. But again, being empathic, it's very easy for a narcissist to kind of spot you and go, "You beauty, here we go, walking duck, come straight towards me." So, and when you're in it, you don't have a clue. I never even understood what a narcissist was. I didn't. And it wasn't until recently that I started doing some research and going, oh my God, that's my life of the last 10 years. This is crazy. When you're in it, you don't understand. So I left a violent domestic, um, like a violent relationship with a man I was with for 20 years. I had a little girl, she was 6. And we essentially walked away with nothing. We had nowhere to go. I was very, very fortunate being a nurse and being in a town where the employer that I was working for actually offered me an emergency accommodation. So I was very, very lucky. But again, it wasn't a choice that I wanted to make. It was exceptionally hard because a covert narcissist, people don't know what goes on behind closed doors. No one would believe me. No one would believe this man had been belting me and harming me and all of that. Like, so you just think, oh, no one's going to believe me. So you stay and you stay and you stay and you go and you come back and I think about 5 or 6 times, etc. So we had nothing. I had to negotiate with him to get my daughter's bed and the bits and pieces that we needed to live. Um, we were very, very lucky that we had somewhere to go. And I was also very fortunate that I had a good income. Many, many, many women do not have that luxury. So that's why my heart goes out to people who are in a situation where they have no money, nowhere to live, and so they're stuck in this situation. It's very, very difficult to leave. So I understand that. And then got myself, and then I suppose I'd always wanted to learn about real estate. So I was 40, and I'm like, what do I do? How do I actually learn how to buy and sell houses? Because I know that's where I build a future for myself and my daughter. And I was fortunate. I got I entered a real estate competition of all things and didn't think anything more of it. I think I had to write in 100 words why I thought it was a great idea or whatever. And I got picked, and that changed the trajectory of my life, seriously. So I started buying and selling property, learning everything. Over that year, I made a lot of money, did very, very well. And then I met narcissist number two. And that wasn't smart. And this one was a woman, right? First foray into a gay relationship. Didn't pick it. Didn't pick it. Had no idea. No idea. I was a sitting duck. And I had a substantial amount of money then. So over 18 months, 2 years, accumulated about 1.8 million just from the property transactions I'd done. It's crazy, crazy thinking about it now. But she would have thought all of her Christmases had come at once. She's like, great. So I had no idea. We had to go through that whole thing of 10 years. I pretty much lost everything, made some really stupid decisions with her.
So
And
you had 20 years with the first person and
yeah,
10 years with the second person.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm a slow learner, April.
No, no, you get it when you get it and you lead with your heart. Now you've learned to lead with your head. And
Correct,
so many
correct.
times, you know, you are a nurse, you are a caregiver.
Yeah,
You're thinking,
empath.
okay, well, this really can't, I can't be going through this. And then I don't know, I'm just assuming I'm not, I'm not a lesbian, so I don't know, but you would think that a female would have a little bit more tender heart, a little bit more empathy. I don't know, you would just assume you wouldn't see that. And it was a new experience for you altogether.
Correct.
You're
Yeah,
like, wow, okay, I'm not going through this because this isn't the same gender, but the mindset of this individual was the trickery that it was of the first person. Just the second one wasn't hitting you, they were just mind screwing you.
yeah. 100 times worse, actually, got to say. Out of the two of them, I think narcissistic personality disorder is actually what this person has. And when you're living that, you don't even understand what they're doing. Like I was blind, and when I go, I think that's part of the shame and the realization. When you understand what has happened for the previous 10 years, you'll be like, how did I not see it? How did I not spot this stuff? But it happens, and there's a lot of healing that goes with that. And I think, losing my property portfolio, it made me realize that property is amazing because it allows you to lose the lot and then start again. And I've had to start again, and it is part of
And
the
you
learning.
lost it? How did you lose it? Just not paying attention? That
No,
they
um,
manipulate? Well, I mean, not into details, but were they stealing money from you or
yeah, essentially, yeah. And I and the kind of the mechanism of a narcissist is that they won't say it directly, but they would come around the sides like, oh, I really think that we should buy a business, and that would give me a purpose in my life. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what did Julie do? Put a second mortgage on a property that I had in Queensland. We moved to Queensland. I had a massive house, everything that she could have wanted. No, she had to have a business, and it was just before the GFC happened. So we bought a business. It failed. The bank took the property, took everything. I was saved pretty much by some of my other properties that I had over in the Western Australia that actually saved me. I paid back all the money that I owed, but it wiped me out financially. And I should have known then that this is not great. This person took no responsibility for it, and basically I wore it. So I lost a lot, which is, so I just like, okay, packed up my bags, came back to WA where there was a lot of mining happening. I picked up a job straight away and just started rebuilding. And yeah, the massive healing from that still goes on today. I think that impacts on your life more than you know. So,
well, I mean, it's about resilience.
yeah,
You're
100%.
you're the comeback kid, you know.
Three
Really,
times.
and again, and you're a lot of women sheroes because
Yeah,
so many times they would say, okay, I've been beaten down physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, sexually. Now what do I do? They will either clock out, start drugging, drinking, or they will become a predator and
yeah,
do that to other people. But when they look at a role, I mean, I'm getting kind of choked up here, but when they look at a role model like you that has been able to fight back and give back. That
Mm.
speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. So, Brains, you can do it too.
Yeah.
My dear friend always says to me, a little becomes much.
Yep.
And
100%.
so you just have to start and educate yourself. You're not the
Yeah.
only one in this situation. There are people to help you. Getting out and being safe is the most important thing. Again,
100%.
Julie was very fortunate. She had a trade. I've heard of a lot of women that have had nothing. They couldn't go to their family. Their family wouldn't support them. Mother would say, "Oh, he's a fine fellow. You better stay with him. You've married up." Or you have friends that are envious, or you get out of the situation and you feel like there's no one I can turn to, there's no one I can trust. And the hardest part is the little person that you have with you. How do
Yeah.
you explain that? How do you explain that daddy or your other mommy is not the person that we thought they were? That we don't have money for this, that we can't go and do this, and it's expensive to live. I just
Yeah.
came from Hawaii, and we went into the grocery store, and a pound of bacon was $35.
Holy hell. Yeah, that's
Toilet,
crazy.
toilet paper was $14.99. And I'm saying, how do these young people survive?
It's
It's
tough.
always the American dream that we want a house and a picket fence.
Mm.
It's $3,000 a month for a one-bedroom flat here.
Yep.
And we're talking 800, 750 square feet.
Yeah, it's crazy,
So
isn't
you
it?
have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan.
You
And
do.
you can do it. I figure if other people can do it, I can do it too. Well, we've
Yep.
done the nuts and bolts. Let's ask some fun questions. We got all emotional,
We'll get
teary
all the
eyed,
happy
and all
stuff out
that
of the
kind of stuff.
way.
If you were an appliance in the kitchen, Julie Wyatt, what appliance would you be? You should see the look on your face. It's like, really?
What? Oh, I don't know. That's a good question, isn't it? I think I'd be the general kitchen whiz, the mixer, the chopper, the thing that does everything.
Oh, we call them like a Vitamix here.
Yeah,
I forgot what you call
yeah,
it. Really?
yeah, yeah,
Because you can do it all?
yeah. You got it.
Oh, I'm going to be the refrigerator
Why is that?
because I just want to sit somewhere and chill.
I love it. That's probably a better option. Yeah.
What
Uh,
color do you resonate the most with?
blue.
Blue. Why blue?
I don't know. I don't honestly know. It's something that's been a powerful color for me all the time that I've been on this planet. I don't know why. I think it's because it soothes me, maybe. It's a chill color. And I think the other reason I love blue so much is that there's so many different shades of there's this whole transition of blues that you can get. And I think it suits your mood, chill blue, vivid blue, like, I don't know, but that's always the color, always. All of my cars are blue. Everything I own pretty much, a lot of clothes are blue. I
Well,
got
they
blue
do
right
because
in
blue
there.
comes in waves. I'm green. So
Yeah.
I love, yeah, green is a power color. It's
Yep,
very
definitely.
vibrant. It's very strong.
Yeah.
Um, it comes in a lot of different hues as well. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about cars, if you were a car, what kind of car would you be?
A pickup truck.
A
That's what
pickup truck.
yeah. It suits me, April. I love it because I'm not a car, like car's a car, but it's very functional for me. So I do a lot of mountain bike riding, I do a lot of paddle boarding. Plus my job is I'm picking up stuff for the boys at site. I can put stuff in there. I can fit my dogs in there. It just resonates with me. So I
I
know
want to be a 1974 VW van.
what is
Yes.
that?
Yeah, because I could put a hookah pipe in there. I could put a mattress. I could paint some flowers on the outside. We could play some Jimi Hendrix. We could play some Guns N' Roses. I mean, life would just be perfect. We could park it out there on the beach, open the doors. Yeah, I don't want to
I
be.
could see you doing that.
Oh,
I could
yeah,
see you
really easy.
doing
Oh, yeah.
that.
I got my man in the back. He got a big old afro. Girl, I see it. I see it in my dreams. If you could be a flower in the garden, what flower would you be?
I think a sunflower.
Oh, I can see you being a sunflower.
I love the sunflowers. Hey, they're such an expressive flower. They always look happy and vibrant. No matter what the weather's doing, they're just there. Hey, even in the wind, they're like, "Woo, I'm still here." Like they're
Yeah,
so cool.
exactly. If
What
you could
about
have a
you?
conversation, me, a flower, I'd be a tulip.
Why is that?
I like them because they come up, they bud, but then once you've given them some water and cut them and put them in a vase, they're just wild. They just go
Yeah.
yeah, they just go everywhere. So me that yeah, that's me. I tell you, in the back of that van with that hookah pipe.
Yep, you tulips. Yep. I love
If
it.
you could have a conversation with a 25-year-old Julie Wyatt, what would you say to her?
Yeah, I've written some stuff on this. Hey, seriously, I would be back yourself, girl. Back yourself. Don't question your don't question your intuition. And back at 25, I didn't even know what intuition was. You have that gut feeling, but you don't know that's your intuition. I'd be like, never give up and just keep going. And that has been my mantra, seriously. When everything has gone to shit, that has been my mantra.
Well, and that's what's
Yeah,
keeping you alive and keeping you strong.
correct.
What planet
100%.
do you mostly align with?
Uh, I don't know. I've never thought about that.
I'm taking you way out.
I don't know. I'm not a I am probably don't even know the names of all the planets. That's how bad I am. I
Oh,
don't know.
and the reason why I ask these questions, Brains, and a lot of people, because it gives us an insight to who the person is and what they think about themselves.
Mm,
You know, colors are very representative of who you are and your moods and your way that you are able to flow in and out.
mm,
Cars are a way that you move and your structure, how you're designed.
mm.
When I ask about, what animal would you be? A lot of times people want to say, "Oh, I'd be a cat." Well, are you a bit of a predator? You know,
Yeah.
well, you can ask that. I asked a woman one time. She told me she'd be a snake, and I asked why was she a snake. She said because she stayed low. She knew how to shed what she didn't need. She knew how to strike. She didn't mind being alone. I was like, she knew who she was. So these
Yeah.
questions are ways that people can identify with themselves as well as share who they are with others without going into the nuts and bolts. And I thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing your story, your vulnerability, your willingness to help people uh,
Mm,
as far as purchase property as well as purchase their health back. Because sometimes
yeah.
give up, you know,
Yeah.
and that can be
I
a
really
too.
I really feel that, and part of my list of things for 2025 is really there's a couple of books inside of me, I feel, and one of the things that I want to share with the world is how I think my focus on property helped me rebuild my life, not once but twice, and it also shaped and allowed me to align with people who are there to support me instead of absolutely bring me down. And I think property, I owe a lot to property education, probably the property circles I'm in. It just has been a focus for me. And the most coolest thing is that my daughter, who's now 27, by the way, she works alongside me. She's in our business. She is now learning the power strategies at a much earlier age than I was able to. That is so powerful. Plus, my grandson is also learning this as a 8-year-old. So that is to me the most important thing. If there's a meaning to going through suffering and drama, is to come out the other side of that and then go, what can I do to influence other people to realize it's not the end of the world. There's always a way forward. I think that's super important. So
And I think that you're also a leader in the LGBTQ community because you found yourself. It didn't, it's not A, B, and C,
no,
right? Sometimes you got to go A, Q, D, F, Y, you
said,
know, exactly, until you find out who you are.
yeah,
Love yourself, love the other person, be honest, have integrity, keep your hands to yourself. Don't
Okay.
try to manipulate and go into the relationship evenly yoked. If you don't
Yeah.
have money, at least have sensibility, at
Yeah.
least have a willingness to understand.
100%.
Thank you so much. Tell me one other thing before we conclude. I want to hear a little bit about this team. You have built a monster team behind you when it comes to renovation. Tell me a little bit about the team that you built.
Yeah, it's not really a monster team. It's a very small core group of amazing women, gotta say. So
Monster team.
yeah. Yeah. So when I was looking for a name for my company, I thought, well, what do we do? So I called it Chicks That Renovate. So we are chicks and we renovate properties. So that is one of the things we do. We've got myself, my current partner, Shelley, and my daughter, and an amazing lady called Geraldine, and we run the nuts and bolts of the actual business. And then we have teams of mostly men because there's not so many female trades. If I could employ female trades, I would. But the guys are amazing. So they are the ones that, like, we'll go in and do a renovation quite quickly. They all know the way that we work now. So we have trades that pretty much cover off everything. So I don't have to do the physical work anymore, which I used to.
Hmm,
Um, my body doesn't enjoy doing that stuff now.
I
So,
know. I had to
but
get
we've
my
got,
own tool belt. I was watching my husband because he loves to watch the renovation shows. And I saw how
uh,
he was staring at that chick. And I was like, well, what does she have that I doesn't have? And he says, baby, she's got a tool belt.
there you go. That's what you're missing.
Well, I've got me one. You better believe it. And I can put up some drywall like no other. You best believe that.
I love it.
I can also see this, what you're doing being, I'm going to put this out there in the universe with my friends in the television world as being a great television show for one of these renovation home shows because you take it from cradle to grave. You cover everything from soup to nuts. And I
Yeah.
think that it would be great. So we're going to put that out in the blatosphere, okay?
I'm going to do it as well. I think that would be amazing. There's a lot of shows, US based shows that are, but there's not many in Australia. So there you go.
Well, you're a trailblazer, and all it takes is
Yeah.
just one. Tell my brains how to get in contact with you, Julie, if they want to work with you, learn from you, purchase with you. What do they do?
Probably the easiest way is my website. Um, I can share the link with you here, or I can share it with you
I'll
later.
put it at the back of the interview, but just
Okay.
give them the basic website.
Yeah, so there's a lot of information on there, but connect through socials as well, Facebook and Instagram. But my website is www.juliewyatt.com. It's pretty simple.
Well,
And
brains.
there's a heap of info on there. And I'm happy to chat to anyone because I think April kind of put it pretty clearly when we first chatted is that the strategies are universal. It doesn't matter where you are. So, I mean, the rules around some things will be different from country to country, but the strategy and the way that we teach is exactly the same. So,
Brains. I'm gonna work with her. I'm gonna see how we can get her on TV, get her to do a webinar, something. But definitely, she's got a lot of gifts. That's not offered in the 1-800 ballroom. Okay, so don't get tricked up in that. She will definitely go
yeah,
into the strategies and things because you have to know what you're doing. Thank you so
yeah.
much for sharing your time, your energy, your love, and your wisdom and your heart with us here on the Edge. Brains, go here. We're moving. We're not going to be on Blog Talk. Come January, they had some kerfuffle, so we moved over to Spreaker. But the podcast is going to be there. You can Google us all over the planet. We're there. You can go to YouTube and find us. We're going to put all of Julie's information on the back. Wherever you are, I am sure to follow. Thank you so much, Julie. You are the queen of real estate. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank
Bye, Brains. Thank you for being on the edge. You're the best, Julie.
you.